Hello and welcome into this week's edition of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Rewind Show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below and hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's edition of the Cup Rewind, we're looking back at today's inaugural South Point 400. Went a little bit into overtime in this one, 272 laps total, 408 miles. Around the 1.5 mile Las Vegas Motor Speedway in, of course, Las Vegas, Nevada. 12 caution flags in this race for 59 laps. No cautions in Stage 1, though. Stage 1 ended at lap 80, with Martin Truex Jr. taking the Stage 1 victory. Stage 2, we had a couple of incidents. First one happening shortly into Stage 2, lap 90, as Ricky Stenhouse caught the wall in turn number 3. Lap 112, Ty Dillon spun on the front stretch to bring out the caution. Lap 149, Kevin Harvick and Eric Jones got together in turn number 1. That would be the first incident that would start affecting playoff contenders in this race. It would not be the last one, though. End of Stage 2 at lap 160. Stage 2 winner would be Brad Keselowski, winner of the last two races at Darlington and Indianapolis. Stage 3, we had a bunch of cautions, and this is where playoff contenders really started to take a hit in this race. Lap 184, the 24 car of William Byron got into the wall in turn number 3. Lap 213, the 1 car of Jamie McMurray spun in turn 3, and Chase Elliott just had nowhere to go on the high line, runs into Jamie McMurray. And that would be the end of the day for Chase Elliott, another playoff contender down. Shortly afterward, lap 234, Kyle Busch spun in turn number 4 to bring out the caution. Chalk another playoff contender up for an accident on the day. Lap 248, another playoff contender goes down. That would be Denny Hamlin, who caught the wall in turn number 4. Ricky Stenhouse with his second caution of the day as he got into the wall in the backstretch, lap 253. Debris in turn number 3 brought out the caution on lap 263. Lap 267 to set up overtime. We had a big incident in turn number 3 that took out a couple more playoff contenders. The 34 car of Michael McDowell, the 15 of Ross Chastain, the 32 of Matt DiBenedetto, the 38 of David Reagan, and playoff contender Kurt Busch all involved in this one. That set up a little bit over a 10-minute red flag before we got into overtime. Lap leaders on the day, we had 23 lead changes among 9 drivers. Martin Truex led the most laps on the day, 96 total. Brad Keselowski, though, not far off that mark with 75 laps led. 46 laps were led by Joey Logano. 24 went to Kyle Larson. 14 laps were led by Kevin Harvick. That was very early as he got, if we remember, got taken out in that wreck lap 147, so he was out pretty early. 10 laps went to Regan Smith during pit cycle where he stayed out a little bit longer than everybody else. 5 laps went to Jamie McMurray. 1 lap apiece led by Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin. Alright, so let's get into your results on the day for the South Point 400. Brad Keselowski picks up his 3rd straight victory in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. He is on quite the roll right now, and I'm starting to wonder if we might want to start putting him in that conversation with the big 3. Truex seemed to get back to form today as well. Harvick faltered a little bit in that wreck early. Kyle Busch had a pretty good rebound after having problems early. I'm starting to wonder if we need to put Brad Keselowski in that conversation with them. Kyle Larson came home a strong second. He had a really strong car at the end, just couldn't quite get there to Brad Keselowski. But Keselowski was so strong at the end of this race. I don't know that anybody was going to touch him. Truex came home in 3rd with Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney rounding out the top 5. Rest of your top 10 were Eric Almirola, Kyle Busch rebounds for a 7th place finish, Daniel Suarez, Ryan Newman, and Paul Menard rounded out the top 10. 11th through 20th. We see a couple playoff contenders on this list. Austin Dillon came home. One of the few playoff contenders that did not get caught up in an incident on the day, came home with a decent 11th place finish. Kudos to Regan Smith there in 12th, his second race, filling in for Casey Kane in the 95 car. Comes home with a very strong 12th place finish. Trevor Bayne there in the 13th position. Down here we see Alex Bowman. He had a flat tire late in the event. He was another one of these playoff contenders that had bad luck on the day. He ends up 19th, one lap down. 21st through 30th, we see Kurt Busch down here. We talked about his issue, got caught up in that wreck late that caused overtime, 21st. Jimmy Johnson was another one with a flat tire late in the race that relegated him to a 22nd place finish. Another playoff contender here, Clint Boyer in the 23rd position. 31st through 40th, our last page here, we see Denny Hamlin. He landed in the 32nd position after his problems. Jamie McMurray there in the 35th position, along with Chase Elliott in 36th. William Byron, 37th. Bubba Wallace had a problem with his front hub very early in the race, lap 164. He was out at that lap, and 38th would be where Bubba Wallace would end up. Kevin Harvick, 39th, and Eric Jones in 40th. Remember, they got taken out in that wreck on lap 147, and a very bad day for both of them. So that's your results from the South Point 400. Again, this is Brad Keselowski's third win of the season, his third win in a row, but this was also the 500th win for Team Penske across all series that Team Penske races in. This was their 500th win, so a big accomplishment for Roger Penske. Brad Keselowski brought him another big accomplishment last week, winning Roger his first Indy 500. Now he brings the captain his 500th victory. Brad Keselowski is definitely getting on Roger Penske's good side these last couple weeks, I can assure you of that. All right, so let's head over to the media center. We'll see what Brad and your other top finishers on the day had to say after this one.
You're trying to find clean air on the nose of your car. So I didn't really expect to get to the lead. I was just trying to get clean air on my nose, and it happened. The run timed out perfectly where I could get to his right rear quarter and kind of slow him down a little bit. So I wasn't honestly. That wasn't even really. I guess it's a thought, before the restart, but I didn't think. I was just trying to kind of shove him out to lead, and then I never really got to his bumper, so the run just kind of worked out where I was able to go around him, and I needed it to stay green there. I felt like I could have won the race right there because he was really good on short run, and I was terrible on short runs today. But once I could get the top going, I was really good, and I was, right when I moved to up top in 3 and 4 and pulled away, the caution came out. So I felt like I was going to be able to stretch it. I felt like the 78 would probably get by him at some point and then, maybe chase me down. So I knew if I could hold Brad off for a little bit, I would have a good shot, but it didn't work out. And then we had a ton of restarts there, and a couple of them worked out for me, a couple of them didn't. Thankfully the last one worked out, and we were able to get to second.
Is there any theory or explanation for why this was such a crazy wild card-ish type race when it's just a normal mile and a half in theory?
Well, I'll let Martin answer. What'd you say? Oh. Is that what you told him? They ran out of talent. I ran out of my tire ran out of talent. Looked like the Fords tire ran out of talent. And then I'm not sure whatever. I don't know who all had issues, what issues they had, but it seemed like a lot of people had issues. So yeah, I don't know. I guess they're all the red playoff cars. Yeah, that's a bad deal. Hopefully that doesn't happen to me next week.
Third consecutive time this season, somebody's won 3 races in a row, and this is supposed to be the most competitive sport around. Just how good the competition is. So why is somebody able to win 3 in a row if there's so much?
Brad clearly found the horseshoe. 3 races in a row he's won. He has not had the best car. So if you want to really talk about the sport being what it is, you got to look at that. Obviously he hasn't led the most laps in any of those races, and he showed up at the end with good pit stops and good short run speed. So I think clearly it's pretty obvious, how it worked out. He's hot right now. He's on a streak. That's the way it goes. We finished third with the best car. So the last 3 weeks we had a top 3 car, and we finished 14th or worse in every one of them. You know what I'm saying? So it's a tough sport. A lot of things can happen, and momentum and luck being on your side. There's a lot to say for it. Obviously, they're executing. They're doing all the little things right, and that's what it takes to to win these things.
Well, I don't know. I'm not really in a great frame of mind to answer that, because I'm so caught up in what 500 wins means for Penske, what 3 in a row means for us as a team, and what the last 3 weeks has meant to me personally and professionally. It's just really, really special, Kathy. So to go with that, a lot of things have come together. They have to come together to win. Winning is more than being the fastest. Winning is about being the best in all facets and taking advantage of opportunities. We probably weren't the best today with respect to being the fastest car, but my team was the best today with respect to executing on the pit stops, putting us in a position to control the race, and then getting through the chaos that I think you guys all saw over the last 20 or 30 laps. To this date in the season, or to date before these 3 races in the season, we hadn't been able to do that. I don't know if I necessarily think we're any faster than we have been the rest of the season, as much as I would say we're finding ourselves taking advantage of opportunities at a much higher level. And with that in mind, that's what great teams do, and I'm so thrilled to death to see this team do that here over these last few weeks, because I can tell you that today, last week, and the week before, we weren't good enough to just dominate a race. It took a total team effort, and that's what our guys delivered here today to win in Las Vegas.
And let's take a look at your playoff grid before we wrap up here tonight. 1 race down in the 2018 playoffs, 9 to go, and Brad Keselowski, we know now, will be in the round of 12 here in a couple of weeks. We know that for sure now. Martin Truex has now taken the lead of all of the drivers in on points. Pretty good gaps up here, though. Kyle Busch, even after the spin early, comes back with that 7th place finish. He's got a really good gap up on the cutoff line, a 63-point gap. Kevin Harvick, though, lost a lot of the lead that he had with that 39th place finish. Still a 38-point gap back to the cutoff line, though. So still a really good padding here for Kevin Harvick. I don't think he can afford another bad race in Richmond, especially with the unknown that is the Roval coming up in a couple of weeks. But it definitely helps that he is still 38 points up right now. Then we look down here. I would say I'd say everybody in this right column, it should be worried and really should be looking for a really good run at Richmond. Eric Almirola, a 12-point gap is not going to do much for you. And then Austin Dillon, obviously a 9-point gap. He's in a better position than he was coming into the race, but not by much. Clint Bowyer lost a lot of the lead that he had on the cutoff line, only 7 points up now on the cutoff line. Alex Bowman, though, has moved above the cut line after 1 race. He's got a 6-point lead over his teammate Jimmy Johnson. We see all 3 Hendrick cars that are in the playoffs here, right here, 12th, 13th, and 14th. Chase Elliott, I think, took one of the biggest hits. I think actually all 3 of these guys here at the bottom took the biggest hits this week. Chase Elliott now 9 points below the cutoff line. Eric Jones 19 points below the cutoff line after that 40th place finish. And then Denny Hamlin with his 32nd place finish. He's now 20 points below the cutoff line. Just these guys have some work to do. They really can't afford another bad race at Richmond. Like I said, especially with the huge unknown that the Roval is. Everybody's speculating that it's going to be a wreck fest. I think everybody in the playoffs right now has to be looking at Richmond as a must-win. I think the Roval might be more of an unknown and a wild card right now than Talladega is, which is crazy to say, but I think it is. Everybody in the playoffs, I think, really should be looking at Richmond to win their way into the next round just so they don't have to worry about the Roval. But I think especially these guys down here, Chase Elliott, Eric Jones, Denny Hamlin, you really got to be looking at winning at Richmond. You can't lose points to the cutoff line, especially if you're Eric Jones, Denny Hamlin. You're already 20 points back. You lose any more points than that, and you go into the Roval. You have no idea what's going to happen at the Roval. You got to be looking to win at Richmond. So that's your playoff grid following the South Point 400 at Las Vegas, the inaugural fall race at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We will have an ARCA race coming up here later, and then, of course, pole position coming up tomorrow night, as usual, back at its normal time, 8 p.m. on Monday night to recap all 3 of the NASCAR races from Las Vegas this weekend, ARCA from Salem, IndyCar from Sonoma, and F1 was in action this weekend as well. So lots of stuff happening this weekend. We have a jam-packed pole position coming up for you on Monday night. So I think that'll do it for us tonight. If you haven't done it already, you need to go down below and hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. Like I said, we got a lot coming up for you, so you need to definitely make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of that coming up, and hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. So with that, this has been the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Rewind Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.